The industry needs to grow up. One of the things that I've been very good at over the years is having uncomfortable conversations. I've been threatened because people didn't like me saying what I'm saying. There's a lot of people not comfortable with the truth. I did get punched on site once. It's a very long time ago, and I told him his work was crap. And he swung for me, cocked me in the lip, really hurt. But that definitely taught me a lesson. If you don't like the way you're working, get another job. If you don't like your job, leave, change it, or accept it. If you don't like something, there's no point in sitting there moaning about it. And while you're sitting there complaining, your competitors are embracing it and moving forward, and you're going to be left behind. If you don't like it, you're not a tree, move.
Welcome to Taking the Con Out of Construction, the straight-talking show that's changing the industry, one episode at a time. Small mistakes can cost big money, and even more in time. But a small investment in listening to this episode could help you avoid disputes, delays, and costly pitfalls, while giving you the know-how to stop problems before they start. Let's turn complexity into clarity and take the con out of construction.
Welcome back to Taking the Con Out of Construction. In this episode, we're closing out Season 2 with a hard look at what separates activity from maturity in construction businesses. Projects move fast, teams work hard, but how often do we stop and ask whether what we're doing is actually effective? Michelle, when we talk about commercial maturity, what does it really look like in practice? And why is understanding this gap between activity and maturity so critical for the future of construction?
To some extent, the industry needs to grow up. There's a lot of things that people just accept it the way it is. It doesn't need to be the way it is anymore. I've spoken before about methodologies and outlooks and attitudes back in the 90s, and we're now in 2026. The industry has not really come into the 2000s, let alone the 2020s. So the industry does get hit hard. There's massive changes in the last 5 years, and a lot of people are upset about it. There's a lot of external influence trying to change the industry that don't understand the industry. And I get that and I appreciate that. And I'm really sympathetic to that. But there is a trend in the industry, subcontractors, for example, always complaining that they don't get paid. And I go, yeah, I'm getting out my violin. And you know, when people say the same things all the time, it just becomes a thing they believe in. Actually, it's not always the way. And I started Construction Alchemy to support subcontractors. And then some of the subcontractors that were coming to me, the reason they weren't getting paid is because they weren't delivering. Before you start getting contractual with someone, make sure you've delivered. When you're complaining about not being paid, do you deserve to be paid? There is a level of immaturity within the industry still, and they need to grow up. Yes, Grenfell made a massive difference. And sometimes people lose the fact how many people died. I don't know whether the industry is tired. I don't know whether it's just frustrated. I don't know whether it's because there aren't enough women and it's just men sitting there moaning at each other. I don't know. Caveat, as always, it's not everyone, but there are far too many people in the industry that need to grow up and take some accountability and accept what's going on. Things change. I've spoken before about young and old people on site. And there's been many sites and companies that I've worked for when there's been a real conflict. And then there's a divide between the older generation and the young ones. And I work with diversity and I support women, but I also help companies encourage young people to work with their apprentices too, male and female. There's a lot more female apprenticeships than there were before. Things have shifted. But actually what's interesting is the emotional maturity. In an event I was at recently, we spoke about emotional intelligence. A lot of these young lads are actually much more emotionally intelligent than what their counterparts are. Yes, they're much more technically minded than people my age. And my dad's generation, for example, they're trying to look at drawings on phones and send emails and goodness knows what else. And the way that the industry has moved on and it being digital is frustrating to a lot of guys that have been in trades for 20 years. And sometimes they don't like having apprenticeships. Some of them absolutely adore it and they're brilliant. And they take these young guys and girls on, they take them under their wing. Some of the guys struggle when it comes to female apprenticeships, which is often where I get the first phone call to come in and work with people because they've got a female apprentice and they need that support. So I don't just work with the apprentice, I work with whoever they're working with too, because sometimes if a man that they're working with doesn't have a daughter, sometimes they get freaked out about like, how am I even going to talk to this girl? But also in the construction industry, there's this natural protection thing. So I'm often the middle person. And what I like to encourage companies that do bring apprentices in is getting them into groups and getting them to respect one another. So with a younger person, I will explain to them, so you've learned the theory, this is a practicality. This guy has got experience. When you're in trouble, you're going to want him there, either at the end of the phone or down the hall or there to help you. You want that man to call when things go wrong. So listen to him. Let him show you how things are done, because the more you learn from this guy, the better you're going to be, the quicker you're going to get a pay rise or whatever it is that motivates them. And then for the older guy, just saying, yeah, look, he might find a different way of doing things. You don't have to do it, but just listen to him, respect him enough that he will listen to your way. You listen to him. You might learn something from him. But on the other hand, you can get him to do the bits and pieces on your knees. Get him to do the walking around like you did. Get him to do all the drawings. Get him to write the emails. The point is finding benefits, strengths and weaknesses of that collaboration to get them to work together. The industry is changing, methods are changing, and we sometimes have a tendency to look on new things and look at our children not knowing what they're talking about. The industry is no different. So it's about having a look at the rest of the world, having a look at AI. And there's a number of people that think AI will replace QSs in an amount of time. They may well do. I'm not overly worried about it. One, because I don't do a lot of QS work anymore anyway. It's all consultancy based. And two, I think that QSs have always struggled. We've always had far too much to do. It's always been far too complicated. It's quite a stressful job, which is possibly why there's not so many of them anymore, and not decent ones either. But if you can actually get systems and processes where there's plenty of them out there with and without AI that can actually help you do the paperwork and stop the human error, because in a world that is moving faster and faster and faster, buildings are going up quicker, programs are getting shorter, it's all about everything faster for less money and moving forward and increasing efficiency, then the best way of doing that is using things like AI. But the industry doesn't want to, and there's lots of people sitting there sulking and complaining and huffing and puffing and annoyed that there's people in government making changes that don't know our industry. Yes, that is true, but it's going to happen, and we just need to grow up and deal with it. I do find that the industry can be quite childish at times, and people just getting set in their ways. You can carry on being set in your ways, but people are going to overtake you. And there comes a point that all of a sudden you can't get a job. Then what are you going to do? You've got to go with the times. And as much as you don't like it and it's different and it's scary and it's change, sometimes we've just got to put a big pants on and just get on with it. And it's about accepting what's going on. Again, changing what we can, accepting what we can't change, and having the knowledge to know the difference. Because it is changing. But also accountability. One of the things that I've been very good at over the years is having uncomfortable conversations. I did get punched on site once. It's a very long time ago, and the guy never came to site again. And I don't know what happened to him, but he was dragged off site pretty quick. But I told him his work was crap, and because it was, and he swung for me, cocked me in the lip, really hurt. Lucky I have good reflexes, and I moved. Yeah, shocking. Only happened once. Yeah, I've been threatened because people didn't like me saying what I'm saying, but I also make people accountable. But I've got a really good way of telling people that their work is crap. Not so much when I was younger when I got punched, but that definitely taught me a lesson. You can sit there and complain, but did you do this? Have you delivered? Did your guys turn up on site? Your guys have been leaving at 3:00. You're behind program. Tell me the truth and be honest with me. There's very much of, oh, let's blame the contractor. You're just trying to screw me over. Have you delivered though? I'll quite happily sit in a meeting and say, I've got your signing in records. You've only had 4 people on site this week. You promised me 10. You're behind schedule because you're not delivering. Be honest with me. You're over applying. You're applying for work that haven't been done. You're applying for materials that aren't here. Let's be honest about it. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in construction, which again is part of the taking the con out of construction, is the smoke and mirrors. That's pretending to fake it till you make it. I know it's not just my industry. It's Instagram, Facebook, and even LinkedIn posts of, I'm so perfect, my life is amazing. And you can promote what you like in the world. And some people live by that. But you've got to be accountable, and you've got to say, am I honest? Am I true? Am I right? And some people convince themselves that they're poor me, and they've got that victim mentality, which I don't have much time or tolerance for. And actually, have they delivered? It's the same with sexism. Last week, we spoke about being a woman in construction, and I shared some things about my story. And it's just scraped the surface. I've got hundreds and hundreds of stories and situations where I think things have been affected in a positive and a negative light because I'm female. But using excuses, that's just the way it is, aren't tolerated anymore. And in today's age, there is no reason for that. There's no reason why people don't get paid properly. There's no reason why people are overtrading. Literally had a conversation last night. It's still rife and I don't understand it. The amount of companies that come to me and they're in trouble and they've got cash flow issues is because they're overtrading or they're trading insolvent. It is a major problem. There are many companies that trade insolvent for a number of years, but they don't even realize they're doing it. There is a massive risk now with the way that companies' house are working and the way that you need to verify who you are. It's not going to be so easy for people to shut a business up and then start up again. There are so many people that I've had issues with where they've just set up a company, run up a load of debt, shut it down, set up another one, but they've changed their name slightly. And all of a sudden you've got a guy that's got 7 dissolved companies, but because a company's house haven't linked them, you don't connect them. So you don't know that's what this guy does. And you obviously give them contracts and they do the same thing. It's been rife, and this is changing. This will be changing. But what people don't understand is the difference of how that is changing and how that's going to affect things, because it's not going to be so easy to do, which is good for the industry. But things like making tax digital, I'm shocked how many people are not talking about it. Come April, all people that are self-employed need to do their tax returns quarterly. There's a major issue here for companies that have employed the same labour for 20 years and they've only worked on your projects. That's going to become more apparent now because it's all on digital. People that have overclaimed expenses in their tax returns is going to be a problem now, because all of a sudden that money is going through that separate bank account. People don't understand it. They're not aware of it. They're not paying attention to it. Self-employed people aren't paying attention to it, which is going to be a problem. But what businesses aren't paying attention to it, because if they've been employing these people on labour only for years upon years upon years and they're not working anywhere else, they should be an employee. And that's going to cause issues. And the evidence is coming to HMRC. They're going to see it. They're going to come after you. Backdated tax holiday, whatever. It's massive. It's really going to shake the industry. I don't know how we're going to cope with it if that's the case. Now, many companies have been forward thinking. A lot of companies have different contracts and they do offer different payment terms. They do offer holiday, they do offer pensions, and they've covered themselves. But there's a lot of companies that don't. And I'm shocked how many companies are not concerned about it. And this is the thing. The construction industry has a tendency to bury its head in the sand. They bury their head in the sand when the project's going awry. They bury their head in the sand when they've got no cash flow. They bury their head in the sand when they want a new car, but they've got issues paying people, but they just buy the new car anyway. That's not mature thinking, and that's not good business. They don't want to have a look in the mirror. They don't want to have a look at their business. They see criticism as a failure. There are so many companies that are trying to exit their business, but they can't because they built their business around them, because that's how they wanted to make it. And now they can't exit it because their business doesn't function without them. I went to an event recently and a solicitor was saying about how they do exit plans, and people coming in, they want to exit in 4 months. It's impossible, especially in construction, to exit in 4 months. It takes a good 2 years. It takes a long time because you have to look at who's staying, who's going. If people are staying, what are the terms of whoever's going to buy you out, whether it's going to private equity, whether someone's going to take over, someone coming as the MD, or a bigger company going to buy you out and merge you. How does it work with your staff? Who wants to stay? Who will leave? How are you going to withdraw from your system? But also, when somebody's buying a business, they want to see growth. What's the plan for your growth? There's so much that people don't look like, I just want to sell my business, but they are controlling it and their business is them. It's having that maturity, that understanding when a business grows, actually it can outgrow you. Again, speaking to people that have run very successful businesses that are global with numerous office spaces and growing them quickly, and talking about how sometimes you have to remove that person from the board because they're actually the problem with their own growth. They're getting in the way of the business's growth because they want to keep control of everything. Well, you can't do that. My dad believes that his company went bust because he grew too quickly and he employed the wrong people and he trusted them and he shouldn't have done. I don't know the full circumstances of that because I was 15 or 16 or maybe 17 when it went bust. So I was young. I don't know. I have my own reserves. I saw people very differently. I worked within the business as a teenager and I saw how people acted before they knew who I was. And I saw how they then acted when they found out who I was. And they acted very differently when my dad wasn't around. And I saw that. And I experienced that in a big company. The turnover was 76 million before it went bust. And I know which characters were doing what, but ultimately they weren't delivering. Now, is that on my dad? I don't know. Potentially. What's his business? Did he make them accountable? I don't know. But there is a lot of accountability, but there's a lot of issues with people not making other people accountable, but also they're not making themselves accountable. I see this a lot in the construction industry. There's a lot of finger pointing, and the old saying, for every finger out, you've got 3 fingers pointing back. A lot of people don't look at their issues because there's a whole ego thing. And again, this is partly because it's a male-dominated environment. There's a massive ego. There's a lot of society expectations people put on themselves. And they don't always strip back and be honest with themselves and go, actually, what am I doing wrong here? Oh, but it's habit on a Friday. We'll finish early. But actually, when the chips are down and people haven't performed, do they deserve to finish early on a Friday? Don't get me wrong. Many Fridays I've gone, do you know what? Just shut the side. It's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, first sunny afternoon of the season in the spring or whatever. Do you know what, lads? Go home, go for a pint, go see your girlfriend, pick your kids up from school. We've worked hard this week, off you go. And there's other days we're behind. We need to hit this. This is happening. Something else is coming. We're going to have to say, you've got to work your asses off for me today. And when you're a good manager and you're there for your team, they will do that. They will pull out the stops. But then you give people time off when they want to do something and you have that flexibility. They'll be flexible and loyal. But it's understanding that there's taking responsibility and it's always the manager's fault. It's always a leader's fault, because if one of your team isn't operating, you've employed that team. You're responsible for that team member. You're responsible to make sure that they've got all the equipment, the skills, the tools. You need to make sure they've got everything. They're motivated. They are rested. You are responsible for everything. If they're not performing, it's on you. And there's so many people in the industry that don't look at that and won't accept that. And if your team isn't performing, it's not performing. And if me or my client, my team haven't done something, then yeah, they're entitled to extension of terms. They're entitled to additional processing. I've fallen out with a number of people I've worked with because I will be ethical and I will do the thing that's right. Don't get me wrong. I'll save money when I can, but I've never screwed people, ever. There's no point. And in construction, you shouldn't do that because things go wrong all the time. There's things that you need to put in favours. You ain't going to get a single favour out of someone you've totally screwed. And also, they're not going to work for you again. Don't get me wrong, some people would rather get out of bed for 50 quid than nothing at all, but no one gets out of bed to lose money and to be treated badly. And you just have to take responsibility, but also making them accountable. If they haven't done something right, tell them, educate them, support them. If they don't sit there pointing fingers or embarrass them or humiliate them, saying this wasn't right, how can we improve it? How can I help? One of the things I say most often is, how can I help? You've got this situation. Let's not go bullshit. Let's be truth. Come to me with the truth. You fucked up. You didn't order something. Your team's letting you down. Don't come to me with problems. Come to me and say, hold my hand up, Michelle, I've got a problem. I can work with that. It's the lies and the bullshit and the wasting of time. Don't waste my time and energy giving me bullshit, and don't mug me off. I've been in construction 25 years plus, officially. Don't mug me off. I know what's going on, and I've had every excuse under the sun. Just come to me with the truth. There's a lot of bullshit in the industry. There's a lot of people lying. There's a lot of people not comfortable with the truth. If you don't like it, you're not a tree, move. I've said that to loads of people. They don't like where they are. You're not a tree, move. If you don't like your job, leave. If you don't like the way you're working, get another job. Okay, it might not be as simple as that, but if you don't like something, there's no point in sitting there moaning about it. Change it or accept it. Moaning about it is not going to do anything. There's a lot of this, oh, poor me, or we're a contractor, this is just the way it is, and we get bashed and we don't get paid. That's a horrible way to be. It's horrible not being paid when you've put you all into something, or even when you haven't. It's horrible not being paid when you've delivered. So I get it, and I help lots of people get paid, and there are certain people that don't pay me. They do eventually, but I get it. The amount of businesses that HMRC are about to shut them down because they haven't been allocating the CIS properly, or they've not been allowed for their tax. The letter comes from HMRC that instigates the phone call I get. And they come to me and they're cap in hand, practically in tears, on their knees begging me to help them. I turn their business around, and it's quite simple. They feel great. They feel safe. Things start getting better. Then actually their business is better than it was before. So they've ended up benefiting from this situation. But then it happens so quickly and so well, and in their eyes, so effortlessly. It's not effortless at all. It's blood, sweat and tears go into these things. And how I've got to this experience has been stressful too. And then all of a sudden they think, oh, that only took you 6 weeks. And they go, actually, I don't think you're worth whatever pound it is an hour. I'm like, but that's what we agreed to. And I always get paid because obviously I'm about commercial protection. So I'm always commercially protected. But I've had that experience myself and I get it. I totally understand. The industry needs to catch up with the rest of the world. The construction industry is an incredible place to work. It's exciting, can be stressful, it's volatile. There's a lot of loyalty. There's lots of characters in the industry. I love it. I've tried leading numerous occasions, but this is where I'm supposed to be. But we need to have a look at ourselves. We need to have a look at the industry. We need to do that inner work. We need to move with the program. We need to stop kicking the tire and complaining and scratching our heads about it. It's here, it's happening, and we need to get on with it. I think over the next 5 years, in the companies that grow and the companies that don't are the ones that embrace the way that we are and move with it. We need to start looking forward. We can't keep doing lastminute.com. We need to have a look at things before they've gone awry. Get people in. Fractional services that are out there now since COVID are just insane. You can get a fraction on everything. People don't have to necessarily be in the office space now. There are so many other ways of doing it, and there's no excuse now not to be moving with the times. Yeah, there's going to be mistakes. Yes, things are developing. Yes, AI is coming, but until your job is taken, give it the best you've got or adapt to the way that you work. We're moving fast. Times are changing. Compliance is changing. The industry is changing. Stop complaining about it. The important thing is, and while you're sitting there complaining about it, your competitors are embracing it and moving forward, and you're going to be left behind. I'm quite excited to see what happens over the next few years. I'm watching these changes happening and these companies thriving, and it's exciting. But it's just unfortunately that there's a lot that are going to be left behind unless they act now.
That brings us to the end of season 2. We've explored how commercial maturity, accountability, ethics, systems thinking, and leadership discipline separates thriving construction businesses from those stuck in reactive cycles. Construction needs to evolve. Think about your own business. Where are the gaps? What systems and leadership practices need to change? And of course, if you've enjoyed this season of Taking the Con Out of Construction, share it with a colleague, subscribe to the podcast, and stay tuned for Season 3. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
If you found value in today's episode, hit subscribe so you never miss a new release, and share it with someone in the industry who needs to hear it. To learn more, access resources, or find out how Michelle Carr and Construction Alchemy can help you protect your projects, solve problems, and boost your profits, visit constructionalchemy.co.uk. Together, we can change the industry, one project, one company, and one episode at a time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are based on the personal experiences of Michelle Carr and her guests. They are for general information only and should not be relied upon as professional or legal advice. Always seek your own independent advice before making decisions. Neither Michelle Carr nor Construction Alchemy accepts liability for any loss, damage, or consequences arising from actions taken based on this podcast. Thank you for listening.